Hi there, everybody. Welcome to our webinar, Enrolling and Monetizing Your Out-of-School Hours, Camps, and Programs. I'm joined by Edgar, my colleague and friend. He's the VP of Business Development over at Regpack, and my name is Samantha. I am the Marketing Director at Regpack as well. Without further ado, I wanted to introduce my presenter, colleague and friend, as I said, Edgar. He is the Vice President of Business Development at Regpack. We are an online payment management platform. Edgar has been working in this industry for over 20 years, both in client services and banking, as well as in the software world. He has a business administration degree from Northwood University, and he's definitely the lifeblood of Regpack. He resolves huge challenges that we have, as any organization does. He's a great friend to many of our clients, making sure that they have success with our platform. And he's helped to grow our company's payment volume by over $100 million annually as of this year. So really glad that you guys get to meet him and enjoy all the knowledge he's going to share with you today.
Thank you, Sam. Sam, like I said, it's not just a colleague, but a good friend of ours. And once in a while, we get to see each other in person as we are a distributed company. Today, we're here to learn a lot about each other, especially in the enrollment space when it comes to bringing people together, right? When we talk about registration, it is a industry where people are coming together to do something special, whether it's an after-school program and learn and have fun, or a summer camp to enjoy the good outdoors on there. So I hope that we can learn a little bit today about being able to help increase enrollment, maximize the revenue, and being a solution, right, for your school, ever being a solution for your school. Now, we do have 5 poll questions that we will be asking throughout this webinar. We are going to start with the first one just now, Sam. So if you can pop it up, I want to get to know who's on this call, right? There are different roles in organizations like yours, whether it's office administrators, teachers, financial representatives, directors. I have the privilege of speaking with all these roles every single day, but I want to make sure we're targeting this to those. I see a lot of teachers and educators. Teacher educators, very busy people. I know I love my teachers, educators. I have 2 small kids myself, 1st grade and 4th grade. Very special things that you do, and also respecting your time, right? You do a lot for the community, you do a lot for our kids, and being able to manage things effectively is usually a priority, right? Taking care of the kids and not spending too much in technology. All right, so I think we have a good understanding of where we are. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is crafting your program. I don't want to spend too much time on this because you all are all educators. You know how to educate kids and students more than I do, but there's definitely certain things that we see as people are crafting their programs that you want to keep in mind. And the first one was, don't create a camel. Keep it, the initial concept, simple, right? When it comes to registrations and payments especially, parents and those signing up, the kids, are wanting to just flow through the process, right? And this includes when they're analyzing your programs. Why will they buy from you, right? This is something that they should be able to willingly accept, right, without putting too much thought into it, especially when it comes to your programs. It's sometimes when we have new clients and prospects looking at automating their registration process, their payment process, we look at their process and we're like, who created these solutions? How long have these solutions been in play? What results are they giving you, right? Because we can sometimes trip over ourselves. A good example, for example, maybe, hey, we want to offer a summer program and they can pick whether it's a 2-day, a 3-day, a 4-day, or a 5-day, right? As opposed to just having a full week of registration, a half day, or a full day, right? That's a good example of keeping it simple, which will also be very beneficial for your staffing needs, right? Being able to target, right, how many numbers you're going to need to be able to break into the black, and being able to plan on your end. Do research on your programs are similar in your area, right? And don't discount the staff near you. I was just recently at a conference where there was a lot of educators, independent school educators, and the majority of them, they lean to their staff to help build the after school programs, the summer programs, right? The science teacher teaching that crazy science after school program. The sports educator throughout the year that's doing a summer program in regards to sports, right? But in some cases, you may need to look outside of your school. And there are a lot of third party services who, in these days, when things can be done online, can collaborate with you to help you create content and program, right, that will be relevant to your team, to your audience as well, right? So don't just stick to the norm, right, of having the same old type of programs. Do a little research to see what's going on and get this buy-in from your team members, right? When it comes to managing a project, right, it's a big endeavor to get to the end goal. But if you can delegate and learn how to not just get ideas, but how to delegate these processes from those around you, this would be very important. And a couple ways that you need to do that is, hey, how are we recruiting our staff? How are we recruiting our programs? Who's going to be in charge of those programs? Who's going to market for us, right? Who's going to address those campaigns and who is able to address, getting us some numbers. Managing the financials. Usually the person in charge of registration is not the person who is managing the funds, the expenses of your organization. So understanding, right, who's going to help manage those roles will be very important. In the communication, right? Are you allowed to communicate with the parents? Who does communication need to go through? And that way, as you create your program, you're creating something simple, right, that will be easy to market, something that is a stronghold within your organization, and you have points of delegation that when issues arise, it doesn't just come back on you. Okay, there are others who are part, right, of what you are offering. So, undefining the experts. I was thinking about this a little bit more, right? But it's not just on you, right? The person here who is going to be the experts. Um, I mentioned your staff. There are a lot of online communities which we can also share who are generating ideas when it comes to content, creating ideas for how to keep kids engaged, and also leverage your technology partners. Okay, we do this every single day, not just with you, but from those across the country, around the world. So your technology partner, your payment partner, your registration partner may have resources, may have blog posts or some type of channel that will help you identify right opportunities and make you an expert as well. When it comes to the programs themselves, when you're creating those programs, my kid, I mentioned this earlier, is obsessed with crazy science. She talks about it all the time. We create a sense of urgency in our home to make sure that when registration opens, we're right there before it fills out. We tell her friends about it so her friends can come in, right? So identify what are some of the key elements that your teachers bring to the table and that kids are enjoying about the aspects of your organization, and bring those up front so that you are not just out there trying to sell your programs, trying to get people enrolled, but the families are doing that for you. They are marketing you as somebody that they want to work with, right? To be able to enroll and to be able to come back year after year. When it comes to what are some of the other W's, right? It's not just about where is the program going to be, or why do we have this program, or who's going to manage it. Think outside the box when it comes to how are we going to facilitate this program. Where is it going to take place? Is it going to be a physical space? Is it going to be out in a park somewhere? The timing of that program, the online communities that are out there. We work with this organization, for example, where they provide content for schools like yours, where it's a robotics program and it's all done online using the equipment of the school. The kids are able to sign up for these after school programs. They're able to go in and use the equipment and get online to learn engineering, learn how to think outside the box, robotics classes on there, and be able to enjoy themselves, right? In a physical space, but technically they're out in the virtual world. It's the same thing when it comes to marketing, right? How are we going to market ourselves? Where are we going to spend our dollars when it comes to getting people to see who we are, right? A lot of you are probably just targeting local communities. So being able to do things and marketing online may not be necessary, right? But being able to present yourself in newsletters or in communities will be very important so that you do become visible. And don't forget to retarget also those individuals who have come in the past.
Yeah, and if I can jump in, Edgar, for a second, I wanted to add on your relying on knowledge and using your technology. So I know that one big thing that a lot of schools tend to forget is really looking at who their existing base is. Is it from your school? Is it from the surrounding area? Even from, if you're looking at your registration data, what are the zip codes that your families and students are coming from? And like really map it, like go into Google Maps and look at like, okay, my kids are coming from like this little pocket of area. What if we expanded? What if we sent out mailers to the surrounding zip codes? Or what if we reached out to teachers or other professionals that we know we can add educational value to our program that will bring students from that school that maybe that educator is at to your program? So if we're thinking about growing your enrollment and monetizing, really taking a look at who do we have and where are we missing? What age groups are we hitting? What age groups are we not hitting, but that maybe we want to be hitting? And your technology gives you the tools to view that data and then start making decisions from that way. And then you can resource with your financial coordinators or your admin to see what relationships might we have in that zip code over there. How can we leverage those? And that really can help build that program and then add more fun, right? Because you're diversifying your educator pool. So just something I wanted to add in there.
Yeah, totally. I'm sure there are people from all over the country here on this call, and every single area has something to offer, right? Whether you're urban, rural, higher education, lower education. And this is actually a good segue into the next topic, which is the enrollment hurdle, right? Some of you are probably still online or on paper. Others are online, and we definitely want to make sure that everybody's using data to make the best decisions possible on there, and technology is a huge factor in that. So our next couple of topics are going to be, paper versus online enrollment. Why one or the other? The different types of platforms that are out there to consider as you're managing your programs, your payments. The types of payments that are out there and what people are expecting these days. Asking the right questions, right? This is the data that's going to allow you to create your programming in the future to understand, right, who your audiences are and get those around you the information that they need. And ending in the black, right? Even though you may be in the public sector, there's revenue to be made because there are teachers, right, that need to be paid. There are supplies that need to be gathered. There are other programs that you are probably thinking about creating, right? So let's make sure that you're monetizing your programs, and that way you can do more for your communities. So the next poll, before we get into the paper and online enrollment, I want to understand out of the ones here in this room today, who's on paper right now taking registration for their programs, whether it be summer camps, educational programs, who's online on there, so we can focus on one or the other. So I am seeing the majority of you all being online, which is awesome. I am seeing a percentage of you still on paper. There's reasons, I'm sure, for that. But for the majority, it looks like 83% are online. And the other 15, 16% are on paper. Okay, let's talk about the difference between one or the other. So paper enrollment, right? It's easy to just send the kids home with a piece of paper and say, hey, we have a summer camp coming out, and market that program, and then having them come back. It gives you a little sense of control, right? A physical document you can give to the parent, something you can get back and feel appreciation, right? That they're returning for you. But it does come with costs, right? Not just a cost in printing that paper, but a cost in time. What happens when you receive those enrollments back on paper? They got to be put somewhere. Okay, you got to aggregate that data somewhere. What happens when people are giving you those checks, right? That you now have to go take to the finance department or to the bank, right? These are variables that you should be considering when it comes to managing your profitability. Okay, Management of enrollment and payments would be are the social norms these days. I was looking at some statistics of our clients, and in the last month, 47% um, of our registrants, right, have been doing things on a mobile device. Okay, so that is, I would say, part of the norm. People being online, people being mobile, right? And this is an expected way of doing business for any type of program going forward, right? Online enrollment will give you the ability to conform your process to a platform, but significantly lower labor costs, both for you and your registrants. One of the great things I love about what we do here at Regpack is how we transform how organizations work, how we take a process and a problem they have now, and we make it better with technology. The end result doesn't just create efficiencies and profitability, but allows you as educators to focus on the reasons that you are doing what you're doing, right? So when it comes to online enrollment, it's not just a part of the process, right? It is what sets the tone, right, for how you manage, right, your programs, your after school enrollment, and the engagements that you have with your community. The other
Christine,
big
sorry.
factor, yep.
So I wanted to add there was a chat in, Christine said online enrollment is good, but it is challenging when the user or the families consistently have challenges using a simple platform, or they don't follow directions, or aren't able to complete the information accurately. Definitely a con sometimes of online, but I wanted to give you a chance to respond to that, Edgar.
No, it totally is. And there's always going to be those individuals, right? That no matter how simplistic the instructions are or how accessible you make things, there will be situations that come up. Okay. And one of the things we tell our clients is you have to build this out for the 90%. There's always going to be those 10%, right, who just won't get it. Okay, but it doesn't mean that you need to sacrifice it for the other 90% who will bring results to your organization. Okay, and there are ways to mitigate that, right? The first step is to try it out, right? Allow them to go through those steps. Allow them to trip over themselves, and that way they can learn from it. And the next time they go to that enrollment, it becomes that much easier. That's the same thing for you all when you're adopting a technology, right? You're going to trip over yourself, but over time, things click. The learning curve gets reduced. But again, don't build it out, right? The solution for those 10%, right? They're always going to be there. And this includes building things for integrity, right? When it comes to online enrollment, it's not just about making things simple, it's about making things secure, making things transparent and accessible. I wrote down three things as I was thinking about this presentation: liability, accountability, and accessibility, right? It reminds me of a client of ours who, when I asked her what her old process was, and she had a large Excel file on her computer, and she had a sheet with credit card numbers for all her parents, and she would know when she needs to bill them to go grab it there, right? That's a liability, right? Who has access to that information? Who's accountable for that information, right? Being able to go online doesn't just, again, make things simple, but it allows things to be less risky for you as an organization, right? Who are accountable to a board of directors, who are accountable to some type of committee, right? And data these days should be protected. A few different models when it comes to considering going online: free, freemium, and subscriptions, right? There are services out there that can get you online. Simple one is Google Doc, right, or other services on there. Gives you a little bit of control. Very little approvals are needed on there, but the weight is on you, right? You are the one supporting your process. You are the one supporting that information. And although they may be simple, right, it usually comes with added costs. And some of the things that I see from free services, right, are they may be advertising to your audiences. That's not something that people like. They may be sharing your data with third-party companies, something that I know our clients don't like and we don't do, but things to consider, right, as you're considering a free service. The other model is a freemium, right, where it becomes free at first. You adopt it with very little cost. There may be some support, right, online, a lot of articles you can read, but then they start taxing you, right, as you start getting your numbers up, as you start using more of their features, right? And this is something that is hard to budget. I'm a board member of an association in my community, and one of the things we make when we make decisions is what's the cost, what's the return on that cost, right? So when we're using something like a freemium, right, it's an easy onboarding experience, but down the road, mid and long term, it becomes difficult, right, to target, right, what the actual expense is, right, and also limits you from wanting to do more because those expenses get higher, as opposed to a subscription model. As you're considering, moving to online, there are services out there where you pay and budget for a service. You get access to an onboarding specialist. You get access to a support team, and they in essence become your technology partner, somebody that you can ask for help, ask for ideas, being able to integrate it, right? Not just the subscription to a specific program, but adopting it across your environment. And this is something that we see a lot, right, in schools, in programs like yours, where there is a person who comes with a need, and we're able to assist that person with the summer program, with an educational trip. But then there's that other teacher right next door who is still doing things manual, or who could leverage, right, technology like you, who could liberate themselves from manual processes, right? And where a subscription model will allow an organization, right, to adopt a tool to become something that can benefit, right, your entire organization. Okay. So three different types of models out there that as you're searching, there's a lot of websites, right, that you can compare and contrast on there and decide what's best for you. Payment methods. So in my background, I worked for many banks, and understanding finances is something that is comfortable for me. But it isn't always comfortable for teachers or reporting right on expenses. And 72% of all the payments done these days are online: credit card, debit card, or mobile. Okay, so this is something to be aware about. This is happening, right? There will still be those who don't trust the system, who still want to interview, but the norm is being able to accept payments not just on the computer, but on the phone. Okay, we all shop online these days. Parents want to be able to give payments online in a very easy way. And there is a huge decline in the use of cash and checks in this country and around the world on there. There are a lot of different payment options that you can consider. And this is the trend, right? That is, it's not going to go back. And actually, COVID, we saw there was a huge increase, right, in online payments through our clients just because there wasn't that ability to make that payment in person or for that physical interactions. All platforms, right, will give you some option to accept payments online. All platforms will charge you for paying payments online. And it's something to understand that not all transactions online cost the same. Okay, not all credit card companies charge the same. Okay, so as you're doing your research, look to understand the fees associated with transactions. Is it just one flat fee? Is there a per transaction fee? Okay, is there a different price for debit cards as there is for credit cards, as there is for electronic checks? Is it more expensive if I charge Amex transactions, which usually they are, right? Are there charges assessed when I get paid out to my bank of choice? Are there charges assessed when I do a refund, right? These are all things that as you accept payments online will be things to consider because they can be detrimental to your bottom line, right, when these fees add up. So your technology partner should be able to give you information, and this is something that you can then budget for so that payments online can become something that you can offer. Your parents would appreciate that, and they'll also offer you a lot of flexibility when it comes to how people will pay for your programs over time. Creating registrations, it's not the same for every single program, right? Whether you're creating an after-school program, a summer program, or maybe an educational trip that you're having your kids go to, right? First part is let's automate that, right? If we can agree today that we need to create processes for the masses, right? Registration online should be the way to go. Um, Most platforms will have resources to assist you, especially if you're an educator and you're not familiar with the world that I live in. Being able to create from templates, being able to articulate, right, those templates to your audience, knowing what information is necessary from your team members so that they can make decisions later on, right? Needing to consider who has access to that information, right? I know in our case, when it comes to our system, right, you can configure your registration flows for the type of audiences that you have. So if you have, for example, a kid that is 6 years old, you may need different information from them than somebody who is a kid who is 15-year-old, right? So make it relevant to the program that you are offering and to the audience that you are offering as well. Asking things in the right way will also lead to an increasing conversion, right? So that people can get from beginning to end with very little efforts. Going back to the question earlier, right? It just needs to flow, okay? And don't just rely on you as the expert. Get feedback from your parents on what is working, what is not, from your staff as well, and always optimize your process. If you see people are getting hung up, right, on your pricing model or at checkout, right, being able to make things more efficient, right, should always be something that you do, just like you do in the classroom. Ending in the black, right? We're here today because we want to maximize enrollment. We want to maximize profitability. We want to bring in revenue, right, to the organization that we're part of, right? Even though some of you may be nonprofit, revenue is very important, and it dictates what decisions you get to make for your organization. Okay, so reducing the price is not the only way to lessen the cost for registrants, right? It's not reducing the quality either. So there are ways that you can make things a lot more affordable, right, without it hitting your bottom line. One of the things clients like to do is offer early bird registration fees, or vice versa, late bird registration fees. I know in our association, when we get people to sign up for our program, our softball association, right, we incentivize that they sign up early because they get about $20 off, for example. Okay, being able to make your programs financially accessible. For example, allowing to make a deposit and doing payments over time may make things more affordable for families. Think about a summer camp. We have some clients, they charge $5,000, $7,000 for their summer program. That's a very high ticket item for people to pay off the whim, okay, or to be paying interest on that on a credit card, okay. So offering the ability to sign up early, Christmas time, January, sometimes even in the fall, right, will allow parents to say, yes, I want to sign up for that after school program for the rest of the year, but bill me over time. Yes, I want to commit to your program and have my kids have a good educational experience over the summer, but please bill me on the 30th of every single month, which is what, my payroll is, right? These are ways to help lessen the burden on families without sacrificing your margins. You want to fill up your enrollments. You still want to be financially accessible to your families. So leveraging technology tools to do this will be something that will help increase your numbers and that you can manage, right? Also the revenue that you're expecting over time. Your financial administrators will be able to make decisions, right, based on the revenue that's expected to come in, the revenue that is being collected over time. The other one is the opposite, right? Is giving money back, right? Giving refunds is a big thing that comes up, whether it is you needing to hopefully not cancel a program, but somebody needing to cancel the registration because something comes up. You want to protect yourself, and there are many ways to be able to do that. One of the first I would suggest is creating some type of refund policy that they can sign and agree to when it comes to registration. So you dictate what the rules are, right, for your programs, how they can make changes to it or not, the time frame of when they can make those changes, right? And having payments online, right, the ability for you to make those refunds, not just to give them their money back, but in some cases, right, just being able to cancel them from the program, retaining their funds so that they can be applied to future programs. So instead of you putting that money back into their bank account, right, allowing them to pass it on to a different program or offering without you incurring additional fees on those transactions, or you needing to now find new applicants to be able to fill in those holes, right? So having a clear refund policy is something. And some programs even offer protection plans on their orders, where if there is, right, a purchase and they purchase that protection plan, where if my kid can't attend the after school program because they're sick or something happens in the family medical wise, then they would be able to get reimbursed for those days for that program without you needing to come back and giving in those funds, because just a 3% cancellation, rate on your program can be the difference between you being in the black, okay, or you being in the red, and finding additional revenue streams to be able to manage those cancellations. Any questions so far? And I do have two poll questions that I would like to address. Sam, if you can pull up poll 3 and 4. Just so everybody knows what others are doing here, poll 3 and 4 are in regards to what are you charging for your programs, your after school programs, your average fee for your summer camp, and how do you charge your families? Do you only ask for payments in full? Are others also doing deposits over time? So when it comes to your programs, $100 per program seems to be the
Yeah, we
winning
have a
one
few
right now.
questions from the chat. Is this the question, is it a week or a month, and is the program cost per person?
I would say per person, right? So what is your average ticket charge per person when they sign up for your program? And this can be like an after school program or a summer program.
Yeah, and I think the week or the month, that really depends, since some people might run a program that only is a week long, or that might be the entire summer. So just kind of getting an idea of the revenue you're looking to, you're used to seeing. Once this closes out, I'll run the other one as well, Edgar.
Yeah, and the majority is over $500, or less than $500, excuse me. We have some that are over $500, right? And even if it's between $100 and $500, that is an expense that a family needs to budget for, right? That can be a difference between making a car payment and sending my kid, right, to a winter program on there. And these are things that I wanted you to consider, right, as you plan your programs and you build out your processes, right? How am I going to accept these payments from these families? What options are we going to give them, right, so that they can consider your program as an option, that they can consider you, right, to do business with, really what they're doing on there. And that way you can create processes, right, that can assist families to make it achievable, right, to sign up there. And the other question is, how do you collect payments, right? Only in full, allow for payment plans. And this may be dictated a lot by the price, right, of that program. If you're only charging $30, right, for that program, then payment in full makes total sense, right? But allowing payment plans, if you automate payment plans, it takes away the human element where on that day, they can just charge automatically. You don't have to remember to go chase those funds. I don't think I've met somebody yet who wants to bill collect or loves bill collecting. So being able to offer flexibility and automate that process is a huge part, right, of what you should consider as you're planning, not just the programs and how accessible they are, but who's going to be managing that process and the labor involved, right, with those steps. Managing enrollment with your team. There's a lot of different ways to collaborate. And when it comes to technology, one of the best things that I see is keeping things together, right? I was on a call earlier today with one of our clients. about a year on with Regpack. And she actually let me know that she was transitioning to a different subset of organization, and she brought along to the call the new person who's going to take over. It happens all the time, right? Um, where there's a turnover in the organization, there's a change of guards on there, and she was a little worried about it. And I was able to connect with her and tell her, you have created in the last year a great resource for your organization where now you can pass on that resource. Your data is all in one place. Your email communications have been aligned, right, to be continued with the next person. Your payment reporting, right, will continue to work the same way for the rest of your team, right? Being able to just hand over the keys to that process, that data, historical data, is going to make her life a lot easier and that of their organization, right? So there are many ways and many tools that you're going to be able to use, right, within your environment to help manage that program. For example, internal comments, right? This is something that's overseen by a lot of people. But you're learning things as you go from individuals, from staff, right? And be able to log those somewhere to make decisions off that is very important. I mentioned earlier about filtering through your data and identifying who you're working with, and that way you can target engagements or target your marketing, right? So being able to centralize that, not just for you, but for your team. For example, I know in our solution, you can give admin access to different departments or different administrators, and you can control who you um, give access to and what access they have. And that way they can mine through your data. They're going to be able to understand what's going on with the organization without everything having to go to the top, right? Without them all having to clutter your inbox with those requests. Being able to group your campers together, being able to assign right specific areas to those applicants, such as this individual group is going to be with this counselor, or they're going to be assigned to this bunk, right? So being able to centralize your data is one thing, but then being able to segment it, tag it, statuses will be very important, right, as you create processes around that. When it comes to registration and collecting data, it's not just what you collect from the families or the payments that are coming in. It's about what you also collect from your team, right? Being able to store that all in one place so that then you can filter to that data, run reporting, and communicate that data with your families, right? So finding a solution, an online solution that will allow you to add information that's important about those campers, about those individuals that you're working with in the after school programs will be very important, right? So that you can keep it secure in one spot, but also accessible to the rest of your team. Assigning right different roles to your staff, right, will be something that will help keep your team together when it comes to technology, right? I said earlier, it's not just about giving them access to your technology, but delegating, right, who gets access to the financials, who is able to do those refunds, who can communicate with my families, right? This is something that a technology system should be able to provide to you, and that way you can, right, manage the programs on the top, but give specific members of your team access to specific groups within your technology. This goes as well with the emails, right, and the reporting. Who's going to get those updates, right? Who is going to be informed when things happen, right? There are technologies out there that when you receive paper enrollments and they come to you, you now need to delegate information, right, manually to those who need it. When you onboard a technology solution, they may have the abilities so that, hey, when things happen, how cool would it be that, hey, when somebody signs up for that science program, the science teacher gets notified about the registrations coming in so they can start planning, right? Or they can see that Susie is going to be part of her class, right? So it isn't just about coming in and performing actions, it's automating actions that will reduce the time that you are doing, right, in communicating information that needs to be passed on to others. With the whole goal of making things profitable, right? Your time, like I said earlier, is valuable. It is something that you want to give uh, to those families, to those kids, to those signing up, right? So being able to automate and keep things centralized, right, will be very important as you plan, right, future programs and make them profitable for your end. Okay. So this is something that I wanted to go over with you, right, which is how do we keep your programs on top of people's mind? How do we make the most revenue out of your out-of-school programs? So I'm happy to address any questions that you have now in regards to considering going online, considering accepting payments, or some of the costs, right, associated with technologies that are important to you, right, as you make decisions in planning this next year.
Yeah, we had one, not necessarily a question, but I think there's a lot that we could say on it. Michael said the processing fees for use of credit cards and ACH definitely cost a lot to their program. And I know we didn't get into details, but maybe some overarching things to know about those different payment methods and how you can leverage technology to either eliminate that cost altogether for
Sure.
yourself or how to plan your pricing of your programs to account for it.
Yeah, thank you. That was, I believe, Michael
Yeah.
who mentioned that, and I definitely agree. Sometimes the margins, right, are not very high, or they're very tight when it comes to profitability there. Um, so one thing is, it is a norm to accept payments online, and it is something that you should definitely be considering, right? So I said earlier that there is going to be a cost associated, some type of transaction fee, whether it's 2.9, 3.5, 2.5, right? There is going to be a cost for doing business. And something you need to decide first is when you price your programs, are you going to include all the costs of doing business within those programs, right? So instead of the program being $300, maybe we're going to make it $305 going forward, knowing that that extra $5 will help mitigate any costs for online transactions, right? Um, Many organizations will choose to pass on those fees to the applicant, right? Where they will give the option to pay online. And if they pay online, there would be an extra 3%, for example, added to their checkout. Most parents will accept that type of fee, especially if you're working in a nonprofit on there. And it's actually a very normal thing to do. So this is something that you can offer at checkout, being able to pass. And that way, when you are getting a deposit, right, to your bank of choice, it is you receiving the revenue that you need to be able to manage, right, that program. Um, there are some systems out there. I know this is available with our solution where we can identify, right, if this is a debit card, an e-check, or a credit card, right, and also what type of credit card it is that you're entering. And that way, the processing fee, right, can be different for one transaction to the other, or maybe offering a processing fee if they use a credit card, but no processing fee if they use a debit card or an online check, right? Because in the market, debit cards and ACH transactions are priced less, right? Um, or vice versa, right? Offering a payment option offline, but charging them, right, for doing that because there is a labor cost on your end on there. So definitely look into your current solution if you are doing online to see if there are ways that you can pass it on to the applicant, pass it on to the person who's signing up, and that way it doesn't cut into your bottom line. But do recognize that there is going to be a cost of doing business, and these are things that you should consider as you're pricing your programs on there, so that you can still come out in the black.
Yeah,
to
and I
help.
would add to that too, Edgar, that we have a lot of clients that we've seen who do kind of a hybrid. And I think this is where data comes into play too. If you have been collecting online payments, so you have some data, look at how people are paying. Do you have a majority of people paying
Yeah.
ACH or a majority of people paying credit card? So you might find like, well, we have this small subset that are paying credit card. Let's give them a service fee to kind of cover our costs there. And that's going to actually lower your average cost per transaction because the majority will be doing, let's say ACH or electronic check, which comes with a lower processing cost. Alternatively, a really simple thing is just in your checkout presentation. What are you offering as the default payment method? Is that an electronic check, which is going to cost you less, or is it a credit card? You know your audience best, you know your family's best. Like Edgar said, if you're with a nonprofit, a lot of times people expect that, so they're happy to pay it. So why absorb that when it's essentially an extra donation from them? And you can keep the full revenue, but definitely using number one, your data, and then number two, the technology to play around with it. Maybe you're only going to add a 2% service fee, but the total processing cost for that transaction would be 3%. So you are paying 1%, they're paying 2%, and you find a balance. And that's just where at the end of the day, you have to look at your data, look at your margins, and decide where can we make some changes that will find a balance, or that we know our families would be happy to take care of it. And that's just I think trial and error sometimes as well. And going back to like the idea of reporting and using your data, Edgar talked also about communication. I know we had a comment early on from someone, a music teacher. She partnered with that, or a music teacher at her school, and they were able to bring students that are students of the music teacher into their program. So networking and seeing, okay, I see that this music teacher brought in some additional students into my program, which up my revenue. Where else can I find relationships and build on that? And that starts with your registration forms too, right? Collecting their zip codes, collecting the schools that they attend, so that you can start building those partnerships just from what you're bringing in organically, and then grow out from there.
Yeah, if you're making that transition from paper to online, especially, there is going to be a lot of positive things that you'll see because, yeah, that kid who went to the program last year, right, they're more likely to come back the following year if you provide some type of marketing um, or incentive to them, and it becomes a norm, right? Right, coming back, registering online, paying online, right? I had a client. She was a little concerned about processing fees online, so she decided to offer as one of the options she provided a donation, right, to help pay for operating costs of their school. So at checkout, right, they were able to sign up for the programs and they were to see options to help donate toward the school, right, and even reoccurring donations. So it's not just somebody saying, "Yeah, I want to donate $20 to help, the program, but I want to do it $20 every single month," right? So these additional revenue streams are what some technologies can provide you, and that way you're not just offering everything that you have to offer to that program, but you're thinking outside the box when it comes to how can I recoup my fees, right? When it comes to service fees, when it comes to offering donation abilities, um, or in some cases sponsoring, right? I want to sponsor a camper, or I want to sponsor, right, an after school program, right? And these are things that can be done through technology so that they can bring additional revenue streams.
Yeah, and I know that when we were at our event last week, Edgar, we talked with a lot of program professionals, so teachers as well as auxiliary program directors and those creating summer program curriculum and events at their schools. One of the challenging things that they run up against in the admin side of things. So again, something taking you guys away from what your bread and butter is, what you're good at, what you love to do, your mission, your passion. It's just like proving to your administration, my program is working, it's successful. This is the growth we've experienced. COVID
Mhm.
obviously was huge for all of us. I think even us at Regpack, a software company, no one was immune. And we're starting to finally see enrollment numbers in the like K through 12 space go back up to pre-COVID numbers, which is really exciting. But how do you
Yeah.
say what programs are successful, what programs are not successful? Where have we grown in age group, in location, in school, whatever it might be? and trying to put something like that together from paper enrollment forms or not asking the right questions from parents through that registration process that you'll need for your reporting later on to be able to go and say, our revenue in 2018 was this, our revenue in 2019 was this, et cetera, right? And backing that up with data can sometimes make or break your ability to continue to run that program, not just to see maybe holes or room for improvement, but also to celebrate your success as well, to see your enrollment numbers. I just had a conversation with one of our music schools that we work with that has saw a 67% jump in enrollment from going online into our system from paper, of course. And so, but she just saw that the ease of use and the ability to offer payment plans was something that allowed more people the accessibility to get into her program and the comfort of registering. So, and she knows that number offhand because she's online now and she has those numbers and the reporting to back it up. So don't discount, even though there is, of course, the cost associated with technology, there's a much bigger cost in terms of manual labor to put together that essential reporting that you're going to need year over year for your administration or for your program directors.
Thank you. There's a question from Christine. There is an ability to create a sense of urgency, Christine, using technology, where you can put like capacities on the programs. You can have a wait list option as well, so that it isn't on you, right, to take a bunch of registrants and then allocate them to different programs. Being able to display to the parent, here are your options, here's what's available, here's how much is available, right, will allow them to make that decision themselves to say, I'm going to put my child in that program or on that wait list. And that way, you're just seeing it come in, right? I mean, some of the best success stories I hear is somebody coming in the morning, clicking a button to open their registration. They walk away to get some coffee and take a quick break, come back 15 minutes later, and seeing their enrollment numbers full, right? Parents coming in, getting themselves into the spot that they want, adding themselves to the wait list, seeing the revenue, right, hitting your bank the next couple of days, right? So instead of putting that burden on you, right, putting it on the technology, and it may be a learning curve, right, for the families, right, where, hey, I didn't get into that program that I wanted, but next time they'll be a little bit more prepared. You won't eliminate those situations, right? But using technology, right, to automate, right, those decision-making processes so that parents, right, can do that themselves, right? It's going to take that pressure off you.
Yeah, there's a question here too that Michael posed, or a statement really, but something I think we can respond to. Challenges on the process for timing of enrollment. So returning families getting priority, but that might cause complaints, but how we might facilitate that using technology versus, let's say, a paper process or a more manual process.
There's definitely going to be the parents who are not going to get into that program, and I do see many organizations who they will prioritize like an early enrollment link to returning families, and that way they can have first pick right at the availability, and then having a full enrollment come in later on. But this is exactly why you should use your technology, right, to promote your programs, to communicate the expectations of what's happening, to announce, right, your registration start date, right? Because yeah, if you don't know that registration started last week and you're just finding out right now, right, it's going to be a conflict on there. But if you are ending your, let's say, your summer program, and you already have, right, a date on when it's going to start registration and your summer programs for next year, then this can start putting the burden on the families to start planning, right, for that January 15th launch date, to create excitement over that day. The goal is to maximize revenue and profitability, right, when you're managing these programs. It's not always going to make everybody happy because not everybody's going to be able to enroll, right? So this is back to why are we doing this, right? What are the goals that we're trying to accomplish? What's the 90% that we're trying to achieve? And then there will be those 10%. But the more you can communicate ahead of time, the more you can reduce, right, those situations on there while still achieving your larger target.
Yeah, there was a comment as well, and it's not the point of this webinar, but I did want to bring it up because I think it's what we're all struggling with, which is staffing, right? Wait lists because of staffing challenges. And I think it definitely is connected. I know a lot of our clients and other schools that we spoke with over the past few months have been opening registration at least a month, if not more, earlier than normal. One, because it allows them to see, okay, what programs are going to fill up, what are the most popular. If you have a situation where not every program is waitlisted just due to demand in your area, but there, all I hear is that we're hiring and we're staffing until the last minute. I don't know that a technology solution can help solve that problem. That's like the human problem. The marketing person in me would say that, you need to take as much off your plate and automate as much on your plate from an administrative side as possible, because you have so many concerns around making sure that you have the staff that you need, or you have the logistic capability to pivot if you need to cancel a program, add a program, change a schedule. I know Edgar talked in the beginning about, don't make a camel, right? You might have some families that I need half day, I need Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I need Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, who knows what it might be.
Makes it hard to
But
plan.
really, yeah, it makes that staffing challenge harder. And it's, again, programming and setting up your processes internally for the 10% as opposed to the 90%. So definitely I'm not the expert on the greater staffing challenge. I do know that a few tips I heard last week that I found really interesting, and I wanted to share just because I thought it was super hilarious. But people, like, especially younger staff that you guys might be looking to hire, whether it's for a counselor position or just kind of an intern level, or a helpful coordinator, is just changing your job title. We talk a lot about, Edgar talked about making things fun. So instead of just having, like, pink pony, a camp for the week, it's like unicorn sparkle, right? Like, just a change in the language. And the same goes for your staffing, right? Instead of just like, camp counselor, maybe it's program director or program coordinator, or, getting creative with that, because we have a generation now of younger folks who are looking to expand their resume and expand their experiences. So just a small tip, but that a lot of schools that I've heard who have made those changes have actually seen that they've had increased applications and retention of their staff when they feel like the job that they have is really important and really valued. So small tip, that's all I can offer you guys today, just my networking.
Using technology also to get those staff registered, right, and knowing who you're working with, who you can communicate when they're available, is always something that your technology partner should be able to assist you with.
Yeah. It was such a pleasure, I know, to be able to talk with all of you and share a little bit of our knowledge. It was great to be here, and we hope to connect with you. We'll be sending you an email too. So if you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to hit reply, and be in touch. We're always loving talking to professionals and educators to help you do what you do best.
Thank you for your time. Best of luck with your programs planning next year and adopting technology so that you can do what you love to do best. Take care.